Start strong. This is a very, very important message that's really geared towards our college freshmen, maybe our early college sophomores, but anybody can listen to it, but it's kind of geared towards those two groups. Diverse Medicine is 2 years in now, so really probably about August or so 2012 is when we really kind of got things going, started getting more members on the website, and now we're 2 years in. We have a whole lot more members, a whole lot more popularity, a lot more mentors and mentee partnership. And as we're getting more members coming to the site, we're starting to kind of get a better idea as to what the key issues are that are kind of plaguing the minority community, the minority pre-med community, I should say. What I'm learning is that a lot of our members are actually seem to be post-bacs and non-traditional college students. Non-traditional pre-medical students. We also do have a lot of students who are college freshmen, sophomores, juniors, some high school students, and so forth. But we're getting a lot of students who have kind of got to the end of their college years or after college and just saying, okay, I want to go into the field of medicine, but I didn't do X, Y, and Z at the start of my college career. Therefore, I'm not in the best position to go to the field of medicine. So I'm having to restart, go all the way back to the beginning and try to do this thing the right way the second time around. So this message here is geared towards the college freshman and the college sophomore with the idea of getting you all to start strong is really, really important. You want to start strong and finish strong. Finishing strong alone is great, but finishing strong might not be good enough to catch you up to the people who started strong to begin with. So what I want to talk about is starting college. So your freshman year in college, what things do you need to be thinking about when you start in college? It's really important that you have somebody who can either tell you these things or you go do the research about these things on your own. You don't just start college and hope that this information is going to come to you, because it won't just come to you. You have to be proactive. You have to go out there and seek this information. You have to seek mentors in order to be successful. Everybody in the field of medicine, if you read my blogs and if you talk to anybody who knows me, you know that this is something I really believe. You don't have to be extremely smart to be a medical doctor, but you have to work hard, and at least before you get into the field of medicine, you have to be a go-getter. Those are two things that are essential. Work hard and be a go-getter. You have to go out there and take some initiative and figure things out on your own and learn how to get into the field of medicine. So start strong. I would say there's probably 3 things that you really need to focus on as a freshman. Coming into college, 3 things you need to set apart from everything else and kind of focus on having a straight, solid plan for these 3 things. First of all, the first 2 of these 3 things are the 2 most important things to help you get into the field of medicine. No matter what anybody says, people say, oh yeah, we want to look at your extracurriculars, we want to look at your volunteer work, how many organizations where you're a part of, your rec letters. All those things are absolutely great, but none of them matter one single bit if you don't get an MCAT score that's adequate and a GPA that's adequate. So the 2 things when you start in college that you really need to pay attention to are, how am I going to get a good MCAT score, and how am I going to get a good GPA score? If you don't have those 2 things, or if you don't have at least one of those 2 things that's really, really good and the other one can be so-so, you're not going to get in medicine. You're not going to get into med school with a 1.0 GPA and a 15 on your MCAT. And I picked extreme examples on purpose, but you're not going to get in med school that way. It's really, really important that you sit back when you start in college before you even get into your first class and you say, what do I need to do this semester to get a good GPA? You need to say, what do I need to do to get a good MCAT score? Yes, as a college freshman, you should be thinking about your MCAT. I'm not telling you, we're not talking about going out there and studying and taking Kaplan prep courses or Princeton review prep courses, but we are talking about thinking hard about what you need to be doing during each semester in order to get that good MCAT score when it comes time for your, the end of your junior year or the beginning of your senior year. So let's take the first issue here, GPA. How do you get a good GPA? The bottom line for all this is you have to work hard. So you have to study hard. There's no way around it, okay? You're not going to get a good GPA just because you're smarter than everybody else. That doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. So work hard and be smart in the way you work. And be motivated. I'll tell you, the first thing you need to understand is you need a good GPA. If you don't understand you need a good GPA, you're not going to get a good GPA. When I started college, the thing that I did was I had a big bulletin board in my college dorm room. And right in the middle of that bulletin board, I put 4.0, big letters or big numbers. Could have missed it. Anybody who walked in the room would say, what's that 4.0 doing on your board? And the reason I had that on my board was to remind myself, I'm shooting for a 4.0 this semester. I need a 4.0 this semester to get into medical school. Obviously, you don't have to get a 4.0 to get into medical school, but that's the mentality that I came into it with. I need this GPA to get into the field of medicine. So you have to have your goal first. You set your goal. If you don't have a goal, what are you shooting for? You have to set that bar, set it high. After that, after you know what your goal is, you have to figure out who can help me accomplish this goal, who can help me achieve this. That means you have to have a core group of solid friends who understand what your goal is. They don't have to be like your study friends, or they don't have to be going into the field of medicine at all, but they need to understand this is your goal. So the nights when everybody else is going to the party and you say, no, I have to study because I have a test on Monday, they'll say, oh yeah, but it's only Thursday. Hey, that's my goal. You see that 4.0 on my wall? That's my goal. I need you to remind me. I need you to hold me accountable so I can get that goal. So you have to have a group of friends who understand that's your goal and who support you towards achieving that goal. The second thing is you need people who you can study with. So these will be people, a lot of them might actually need to be in some of your same classes, because you don't expect to just study the whole semester all completely by yourself and do better than people who study by themselves and study in groups. If you study in groups, you're going to learn what the other people know. You teach one another. As you teach one another, you're solidifying what you already know. Then you're also learning what other people know. So have a group of people who will support you, hold you accountable, even though they're not in your major, and have a group of people who might be in your major and in your classes who you can study with. Third thing I would say is you have to have a certain relationship with your professors. People underestimate this a great deal. You know, I wrote about this in one of the recent blogs on DiverseMedicine. When somebody takes you as being serious, they're more likely to help you. When somebody says, okay, I know such and such wants to go to medical school, they'll be more apt to help you get to medical school. So how do you let people know you want to go to medical school? You sit at the front of the class. You don't have to sit in the very front row, but sit somewhere in the front of the class. Ask a question every now and then. Even if you know the answer to the question, just ask the question. Draw just that little bit of attention to yourself so they can see, oh, look, Chris is actually interested in learning the subject matter at hand. So just ask that question. You know, every end of every third class or so, raise your hand up and ask a question so the teacher remembers you. And a lot of our members on the website, not all, but a lot of our members on the website are minorities. So first of all, they'll remember you because you're a minority sitting close to the front of the classroom, which doesn't tend to happen very much, especially not at predominantly majority universities, right? So if you're at Xavier or Howard or Morehouse or somewhere where an HBCU, it might not be as big of a deal, right? Because the majority of people there are of the minority races. But if you're at where I went, University of Missouri, where there's only a handful of us, when I'm sitting in the front of the class, you better believe that they remember me from sitting in the front of the classroom. Furthermore, they'll remember me because I raised my hand up and I asked questions. So that's one way to kind of draw that little bit of attention, not too much, but just a little bit of attention to yourself so they'll know to take you seriously. Second thing is, and I harp on this all the time, 1 week before your test, every test, 1 week, go to your professor's office hours. Go down, take 20 minutes of their time, sit down, have a list of your questions ahead of time and say, okay, Dr. Smith, I have these 5 questions. Do you mind? 20 minutes. Let's go over them. Can you kind of help me work out these 5 questions so I can understand these better for the exam? I say, hey, am I doing this right for the exam? Is this kind of what you're thinking when you're teaching us this subject matter? And they'll give you little hints and tell you better ways to study. And it'll help you get a better grade on the exam just because you studied in a more efficient way, in a way, because the professor will tell you how they're thinking. So they'll tell you the way you should be thinking to study for this exam. So that will help you by itself. And second of all, again, they're going to look at you as being somebody who wants to do well in their course, and they'll be more apt to help you do well in their course. So those are really important things when it comes to getting a good GPA. And the last thing for getting a good GPA, I said it first and I'll say it again at the end, you just have to work hard. You have to put in the hours to study. Don't expect to get a good GPA and say, oh, I didn't study for this exam. And you're going to run into a lot of your friends. You're going to say, oh, I didn't study. I crammed last night. A lot of them are lying. Don't believe them. A lot of them have been studying your butt off all week, telling you that so you don't study as hard so they can get a better grade than you. Don't fall into that trap. You know, just because they say they're not studying, don't take that as, oh, I don't need to study as hard. If somebody tells you they're not studying, just tell them, good for you, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to study because I want to do well on this exam. So get the GPA. Set your goal early as a college freshman. Say, I need this GPA. You need to go to Google, wherever you can find this information, and figure out what the average medical school matriculant GPA was for the prior year. For example, I think 2013 was about a 3.67 or so, I believe. So you need to say, okay, that's the average GPA for somebody to get into medical school. So I need to get at least that GPA, minimum that GPA, and you work your butt off and get that GPA. So that's the first thing, getting the GPA. The second thing is MCATs. So again, you're not going to be taking the MCAT until late in your college career, and you will not be taking Kaplan prep courses or practice MCAT tests until later in your college career. But you need to have an understanding of what the MCAT is. A lot of people start college and say you're pre-med, but they have no idea what the MCAT is. You need to know what the MCAT is. You need to know what a good MCAT score is. You need to know what the average MCAT score is for the people who entered medical school the prior year to you start in college. You need to have it in your mind, I need to get at least that MCAT score to get into medical school. So I did not do this in college, but I wish in retrospect I would have done this. I think this is something that I did it in medical school. I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I did not do this in undergrad, but I did do this. I used this concept in medical school. I wish I would have done this in undergrad as well. So buy an MCAT book of some sort early. When you're a freshman, find one of those MCAT review books, biology, for example, to different MCAT topics, really biology, physics, chemistry, these topics, because these are courses you will be taking in college. Get the MCAT book, and as you're learning a certain topic matter in your general college class, so for example, if you're learning, my goodness, it's been so long I can't even remember all these things, but let's say if you're learning, I don't know, something about inertia in your physics course, go to your MCAT book, one of your MCAT physics review books, and open up the section on inertia and read that section in your MCAT review book. They'll have some practice questions. Do the practice questions as you're studying the class. So that way when you're learning your things from your professor and your regular general college classes, you have your MCAT book too, and you'll be seeing, okay, how is the MCAT going to ask this same question that my professor is trying to ask? Let me be able to, I want to make sure I can switch my brain from thinking my professor wants me to understand this question in this way, the MCAT is going to ask it in this way. It'll be the same general principles, but they might ask the question slightly different, and you need to be able to understand that the way your professor is teaching you this particular topic is the same way, is the same MCAT question right here. You need to be able to kind of switch your thought process over to that. So that's really important. Buy your books, buy them early. And as you're studying in your general college lecture classes, review those MCAT books too. So that way, by the time you get to be a third, fourth year undergrad student and you're actually preparing to take the MCAT, you would have already have some sort of general understanding as to what the MCAT questions will be. So those are two really important things. Understanding you have to get a certain GPA to get into medical school. Understanding you have to get a certain MCAT score to get into medical school. The third thing that I think is really, really important to think about at the start of your freshman year is, what do you hope to be doing the next summer? That summers matter. You have to have a plan for what you want to do the following summer. You don't have to have it, the first month or the second month of your college year, but certainly towards the end of your first semester in college, you need to be thinking, what am I going to do for the summer in between my freshman and my sophomore year? And I say this because it's really important, because a lot of people will go home after their freshman summers and they'll spend it working at a local grocery store, which isn't a bad thing, especially that might be a really good way for you to make money for that summer. But think about, instead of spending it, packing groceries for the summer, if you know you want to go into the field of medicine, how about you spend it working in a hospital doing something, getting paid for that summer? Or how about you spend it at a summer enrichment program where they give you stipends? Or how about you spend it doing research for that summer? So you need to think about these things early, maybe even before you start college. Do some research on this topic and have a list of things you want to apply to for the following summer. So when the summer comes about, the next summer comes about, you're not scrambling trying to find something to do for that summer and saying, oh, I'm going to take summer courses just because I have nothing else to do. If you need to take summer courses, or if taking summer courses will be beneficial to you, by all means do it. But don't take summer courses like a lot of people end up doing just because they didn't look ahead of time to find something that will be beneficial for their career. So for example, after my first summer, I did a summer research program down in a cancer center in Texas. So early on in the year, I knew, okay, I need to be thinking about what I'm going to do next summer. Let me start looking at the potential options and apply early. You want to be one of the first people to apply. So keep in mind, if you're applying for a lot of these summer programs, that means you're going to need rec letters, right? So that's why it's important to think about this early in your college freshman year, because you need a rec letter. So you need to be thinking, which of my professors will be able to write me rec letters as a freshman? Because you're going to have a lot of juniors and seniors who are asking these same people to write them rec letters. So you're going to have to be set apart just a little bit in order to get them to actually say, okay, he's a freshman, let me write him a really good, strong rec letter so he can get into a summer program here. So think about these things really, really early. Summer programs will go a long way in getting you looked more favorably when you're applying to medical school. There are opportunities for you to go meet people at different universities, get rec letters from different universities, to meet people, students from different universities who can kind of tell you their stories and how they got into those various medical schools. They're a really big deal. They're a lot of fun. You learn a lot from them. You can make money from a lot of them. But the important thing is you have to think about this early. You don't want to be screaming last minute to figure out what you'll do with your summer. So, kind of recapping, again, this isn't an all-encompassing list. These are just 3 things that a lot of freshmen, especially a lot of freshmen of minority races, don't think about. Nobody tells you that you need to have an understanding of what it's going to take to get that GPA, and nobody tells you need to know what the GPA is. So you have to know, what GPA do I need to get into medical school? What's the average GPA to get into medical school? Know that early so you can shoot for a GPA higher than that early. You don't want to find that out your junior year and say, well, okay, I have a 3.0, but the average GPA last year was a 3.7. If you know it's a 3.7 early, you can shoot for it earlier. So first thing is, know the GPA goals, know how you plan to get that GPA. The second thing is, know the MCAT goals. Know the MCAT average scores and set your MCAT goal and have a plan in place for how you plan to get that MCAT goal. Taking the prep courses and such will come further down the line, but early on in your career, you want to be using some of that material, the review books, to supplement what you're learning in your lectures. And the third thing is, plan ahead of time for your next summer. Know what you're going to do next summer. Start applying early. Start getting your rec letters early. You have to be organized. You have to be proactive in all this to get it all done. So those are 3 things, 3 really, really important things, tips for freshmen, sophomores too, to keep in mind early in your college career to get you to jump start ahead of everybody else. Now, of course, there's tons more things that you need to know, but this video isn't for that specific purpose. There's things like you have to make sure all of your college classes are actually planned out ahead of time, right? So you don't want to be applying to college and say, oh wow, I haven't taken applying to medical school and say I haven't taken organic chemistry, right? So you have to make sure you have a counselor, and you have to make sure you know what classes to take at what times. But some of those more general things aren't necessarily the focus of this video. The focus of this video these are 3 things that people, for whatever reason, don't tend to tell freshmen coming to college who are pre-medical students. You need to know what the GPA goal is to get into medical school. You need to set, the average GPA to get into medical school. You need to set your GPA. You need to know the average MCAT to get into medical school. You need to start working towards that early in some fashion. And you need to have something to do with your summers. Those are three critical things. Focus on them. Have an idea. Have a plan for them. So we'll plan to do more of these videos. I really want to have something focused for our members. So kind of at every stage, you know what to be looking for at that stage. So freshman year starting, you need to be focusing on some of these things that we talked about today. We'll have one for sophomore year, junior year, senior year, so forth, summers, things of that nature. But right now, I just want to get the freshmen going, thinking about these things early. We'll need to make some videos about research, who should do research, when should you do research. There's a lot of things to go into thinking about how to get into medical school. But I really want to make sure that our freshmen, starting early, get the jump on it. If you focus on these 3 things we just talked about in this video, you're going to be light years ahead of most freshmen who are pre-medical students. Most people don't get told about these things, okay? So focus on these 3 things. Have a plan. Have fun in college. Enjoy it. I had a lot of fun in college, but at the same time, you've got to be serious. You have to know what your goals are. You have to work hard towards those goals in order to get to those goals. I hope to see you guys on Diverse Medicine on the website. I love being on the website and chatting with all of our different members. That's where I really get to get this feedback, and that's what kind of gives me the idea as to what our members need. So if you ever see me online, or if you see any of our officers online, or if you see anybody online, typically there's a little red circle in the bottom right-hand corner. They'll say a certain number, 3, 4, 5, however many members are online at that time. Just click on it, look at the names, and you can just chat with people on the website that way. If you ever see me on the website, please send me a message. Let me know how things are going on the website. Let me know if there's a certain topic you want us to make a video on, or certain blogs you want us to do. We really want to make sure we're giving our members what they need. Our goal is to help you meet your goals. We want to increase the number of people in the field of medicine who are interested in taking care of underrepresented populations. So that's our goal. Thank you guys for watching this video. God bless you, and I'll see you on the site.